our graph, the domain is the x values and the range is the y. Like we talked about this yesterday, okay? So if I've got this graph here of x squared plus 1, the domain can be any number. There are no restrictions on the x-axis. So we could stick any value at all we wanted into that expression, and we would get an answer to it. Okay, so this is a very common domain. Okay, so x can be any real number. This is fancy terminology. It's a set notation, which we haven't covered yet, but it means the same thing. This symbol here, this funny E, means a member of or element of. So we're saying x is a member of, and then this fancy R means it's a real number. Okay, so there are fancy letters which mean real numbers.
What did you call that? The set notation.
Set notation.
What
Yes.
does the R mean?
Real numbers. So like up here we said it in words. So in is a member of. Okay, so that means it's a member of the real numbers family, but you can write it in just normal words. You can describe it if you prefer. Now, our range for this question, we can see that our graph sits up above here, above the value of 1. It's never going to be below that, so our range for this one is that y is greater than 1. Now, they have said that y is a real number. You wouldn't necessarily have to have that little bit. This is what we're looking for here, that y has to be greater than or equal to 1. So that's the end of the domain and range chat. Well, it's not the end of it at all, actually, but that's the basic how we would look at them.
Wait, is that sign the one that looks like an E? Is that like a greater than or equal to?
No, this one is an E.
Oh,
This is a greater than or equal to.
okay.
Yeah?
Yeah. So what's that?
What's what?
The YAR.
So this is an additional information. So this is more important. This is just saying that it's a real number as well.
Okay.
So you don't need to write that bit. Okay? Now, we do actually have to sometimes exclude a particular number or a range of numbers from the domain. The two main situations that we would have to do that is because we cannot divide anything by 0, and we cannot square root a negative number. Okay, so they are the two main situations. Yeah.
Why can't you square root a negative number? Like, does it?
It's mathematically impossible. It would start giving you, that's when the I comes in.
What?
Remember we talked about square root of -1?
Oh, yeah.
That imaginary number.
Wouldn't I be the square root of any negative number? Because...
Well, a quantity of I, yes.
Okay. Also, I have two other questions. So,
Yeah.
so can you just remind the company what is like a real number? Is that like
Any number. Yeah.
And then for the R, do you have to like, if you were to write it, do you have to do like the fancy font?
Oh, try and do it, but I would just do a double big and then a
Yeah.
big. Is that it? We're good with two?
Yeah.
Alright, so sometimes we do have to limit our domain. So as I said, 99% of the time it's going to be any real number, but in some cases we do have to limit it. So here's a type of example we might have to limit it. If this was our function here, we are not able to divide by 0. Okay? So I could stick any number into this position here for x other than one particular value. What would that particular value be? Which value for x would make this denominator 0? 2. Okay? So that means that here, x can be any real number, but x cannot equal 2. So that's what this fancy bit here means. So x can be any real number, but x cannot equal 2. And the reason is because x minus 2 is not allowed to equal 0, therefore x cannot equal 2. So if you were to put any other number into this expression, it would give you an output. But if you put the number 2 into that expression, it would say error. Yeah.
I feel like you said this already, but can
Yes. Yeah. Just be careful when you are answering, this is not to do with your question. When you're answering these questions, be careful to say, if they've asked you what's excluded, okay, or they may say which value cannot be in the domain, or they may say what is the domain. Okay, so just, it's a little bit tricky, you just got to make sure that you're answering it correctly. Okay, so just be aware whether they're asking you if there's anything excluded, or if they want to know what the domain is. You need to do the same thing, but it's just how you phrase your answer. Similarly for this one, again, we are not able to have our denominator as 0, so it takes a little bit more work here, because we know that 2x plus 3 cannot equal 0, and so therefore 2x cannot equal negative 3, therefore x cannot equal negative 3 over 2. You may or may not notice that this is also a similar way that when we were solving quadratics. If we had 2x plus 3 and x minus 3 equal to 0, we would know our values were negative 3 over 2 and positive 3. So you're doing the same kind of thing here. So it's always going to be the opposite of this sign and this value divided by the coefficient of x. Okay, so again, our domain is any real number, but it cannot equal negative 3 over 2. So far, so good? The other situation was, we said we cannot take the square root of a negative number. And so if this was our function, if fx was equal to the square root of x from our function, then our domain would have to be that x has to be greater than or equal to 0. Okay, because it cannot be in the negatives. And our range would also therefore be limited. Our range would also be positive. Oh.
Wait, sorry. So, okay. What question would we ask where we would have to show, like, I had a question, but I don't remember.
Okay. So, e.g., state the values of x that must be excluded from the domain. Okay, so this is the situation where we're saying, we're not saying which ones are we allowed, we want to say which ones must be excluded from the domain. You've got a choice here. I would probably personally find out which values I want and then tell them the opposite. Does that make sense? So I would probably say that x minus 3 has to be greater than or equal to 0. Okay? Which means that x has to be greater than or equal to 3. So the values of x that must be excluded from the domain are x is less than 3. Because I know to take this, when I've got a square root situation happening, I know that that expression has to be positive. And so I know that x has to be greater than or equal to 3 to go into that. But the question has said, state the values of x that must be excluded. So all of these values must be excluded. Does that make sense? It's not really saying, but I don't know what that means.